Welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name is Jared Mello. Today we are going to go over how to break the trauma bond. And the first thing we should go over is, what is a trauma bond? A trauma bond is an attachment someone forms to someone who has been harming them. And it usually stems from a cyclical pattern of intermittent rewards and punishment. This is exactly what makes gambling so addictive, because you just don't know when the punishment or the reward is going to come. And usually 3 signs you are in a trauma bond are: 1, you are dependent on the person who is harming you. And then 2, you find yourself making excuses and defending them. These are signs you are in a trauma bond. And the number one thing people come to me with in their first coaching session with me is they just want their realities validated. They want to hear that they're not crazy, that their feelings are valid, because that's what the narcissistic person is not giving them. They are invalidating them, telling them they are crazy, lying to them, flipping the script on them, anything but validating what their partner thinks or feels. And this leaves the person in a dazed and confused state where their head is just spinning. And the number one thing they want is just confirmation that they're not crazy. And that's usually what I give them, because when they tell me what their narcissistic partner has been doing, it is insane and wild. And I tell them, no, you are absolutely correct. They are rewriting history. They are gaslighting you. They are flipping the script on you. They are invalidating your reality. And the problem with this is, a lot of times the person is subscribed to the narcissistic person's reality. That's part of the trauma bond. And the first step is unsubscribing from the narcissistic person's reality. And normally what I would say to do in this scenario is go no contact. Now, to preface though, if you have a partner that could potentially be dangerous if you break up with them, you do need to make a plan to leave. Notify friends, family, or law enforcement, because it's all about safety first. And if you have other ties, like homes or co-parenting, that adds another layer to it too. But for this video, we're going to act like you are not co-parenting with them, and it's not going to be dangerous to leave. And if it's not going to be one of those 2 situations, going no contact is the way. And unfortunately though, the trauma bond gets people thinking, oh, maybe it's not so bad sometimes. Maybe they will try to get you to remember the good times, or you will come up with some other kind of rationalization or excuse on why you shouldn't go no contact. But here's the thing. If we are serious about breaking the trauma bond, going no contact is almost always the way if it's feasible to do so. And if we are serious about going no contact, we block them on everything, and we leave no channels of communication open. That's how you unsubscribe from the narcissistic person's reality, and that's how you begin the healing process. Now, unfortunately, once you go no contact, healing that trauma bond and breaking it is just like healing and stopping a drug, and you will probably experience withdrawal symptoms. And some of the withdrawal symptoms would be having euphoric recall, being very bored, lonely, depressed, anxious. Sometimes people develop CPTSD, and people start to think the narcissistic person can cure all of that. And people think the narcissistic person was like a drug, and they think, oh, if only I go back, it will make it all better. But that is not true, because if you go back, more than likely, the love bombing period will be shorter and shorter, and the devaluing period and the discards will become more and more intense. That's what waits for you if you go back. But when we stay no contact, we heal one day at a time. Now, I have some tips on how to not go back as well. If we're experiencing euphoric recall, what you have to do is write down all the terrible ways the narcissistic person has treated you. Leave no stone unturned. Write down it all. And anytime you find yourself feeling euphoric recall, you refer to that list. And when you refer to that list, it will be much less likely you still decide to reach out. Now, sometimes when people's brains are playing tricks on them, they will not refer to the list, and then they'll just go break no contact and reach out. But if you are serious, our actions must be congruent with someone who is serious about breaking the trauma bond and staying no contact. That's why I say these actions are so important, because our actions will determine what we really want. And if we want that trauma bond broken, our actions have to show it. And it's not going to be easy, but it does get easier each day. One day at a time, it gets a little easier. The other thing that really helps is realizing the narcissistic person's love bombing act was just that, an act, a mask. It wasn't real. You fell in love with someone that didn't really exist. It's like a ghost, a phantom. That person that you thought you loved is just a figment of your imagination. It was them mirroring and matching you in the love bombing phase. And when you really understand this, it makes it a lot easier to stay no contact when you see through it. And one of the symptoms, or one of the things you will be able to see if you do really see through it, is the things that felt magical with the narcissistic person will all of a sudden seem ridiculous, because you see through it now. You see through their act and their game, and you realize it wasn't what you thought it was. And these are just some tips to help you stay no contact. And when we stay no contact, and preferably stay single too for a little bit once we are no contact, because even if we get over that individual person, if we don't do the work on ourselves afterwards, we are very likely just to attract someone very similar. And it will be a different face, but it will be the same kind of trauma bond. And I'm going to go over in another video why some people are so much more susceptible to trauma bonds than others. And it's usually because a narcissistic parent was involved, but that's for another video. But to reiterate here, unsubscribe from the narcissistic person's reality, usually go by going no contact, write down a list of all of the terrible ways they've treated you, refer to that list so that you do not break no contact every time you're experiencing euphoric recall. And for those who don't know, euphoric recall is when you start thinking about all the good times and you start thinking to yourself, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I can go back and it will be different this time. Maybe if I would have done something different, maybe it would have been a different outcome. But that's all rationalization. That's deering, defending, excusing, explaining, and rationalizing. Don't do that. Euphoric recall is bogus. Do not fall for that. And the other thing would be just realizing the love bombing was an act. It wasn't genuine. They probably do something similar on all of their new sources of supply. And when you see that it wasn't real, it wasn't genuine, it makes it easier to see through the euphoric recall. And you realize, wow, I was just falling in love with someone that didn't even exist. The person we fell in love with doesn't exist. That's how you break the trauma bond. Stay no contact, and remember, this too shall pass. It will get a little better one day at a time. And try to stay single too. Cultivate the things that you lost in the relationship with the narcissist. You probably were isolated from your friends and family. Maybe you forgot about hobbies. Remember those things. Cultivate them again. Develop yourself again so that you heal and take care of your side of the street so you just don't find the same kind of person with a different face. You don't want to just find another trauma bond or another narcissistic person. We will probably have to start moving a little differently so that that doesn't happen in the future. So if you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked it, share this video with someone that you think might benefit from hearing it. And on this channel, I talk a lot about narcissism, I talk a lot about self-improvement, and I do a lot of interviews with people Sometimes they are people that have experienced narcissistic abuse. Sometimes it's people that I find interesting. But that's what I do here on this channel. So thank you again very much for watching. Comment below anything you think I didn't mention, anything that's helped you break the trauma bond. I'd be happy to hear it, and everyone else who watches the video would be happy to hear it as well. So thank you again very much, and have a great rest of your day.